Evening, everyone. We are getting ready for our Unplugged Live. Just
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Sergio
evening.
Lunel.
get to Facebook. This takes always a little bit longer, and
Exactly.
so
I'm
so let me
I'm
just
checking it too.
see if everything is set over here. Go live, and I think we are live already. Good evening, Sergio. Good evening, Gabriel. How
Good
are
evening.
you?
Oh, all good around here.
All good.
August, the
Same over here,
peak season
although
madness.
Oh
getting a little
yeah,
bit stressed out with the
We are very
upcoming
excited to see the
Wednesday.
eclipse, even
Yep.
though it's gonna rain
yeah.
all over the peninsula. No, I'm just kidding.
You say that to Sergio. It's not going to be happy with you.
I mean, no,
Nope.
I want to see. I want to see the eclipse from here too. It's going to be a magical. I'm going to see the sunset uh, going down over Monchique, the mountain. So it's going to be amazing for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. I have already the eclipse glasses.
Okay. Well, so here we are again, Monday, 9:30
Yeah.
p.m.
Yeah, we are live. Yeah, awesome.
We are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And as you can see, I'm Leonel Rodrigues from Desirable Portugal Tours. I'm based near Lisbon, although you find me always around north to south. In fact, tomorrow, Gabriel, if you have time for a coffee, I might give you a call. And
Okay, awesome.
with me, Sergio Costa from Portugal EV Tours, based near Porto and Douro Valley and surroundings, and Gabriel in the Algarve, Gabriel Lima, the great life guy in the beautiful and sunny Algarve. And well, we did not announce our live today. We did not make a post. In fact, all of us we've been quite busy. But you might have seen the title of our Unplugged Live today. Travelers, your rights and your duties. And this comes in the sequence of the post you just wrote today, Gabriel, which I've read and I found very interesting. And a lot of people do not, well, know about these aspects. In fact, we saw a post somewhere else today about, well, someone that had some issues, not on the tourism business, but in a daily
Hmm.
life situation. Some, well, issues and some situations that we really don't
Yeah.
like to be part of or to be involved in. But the thing is, we know that those issues do happen, and people do have rights. They also have duties, but people do have rights, and they can defend their rights, and they can really stand for their rights. Because Portuguese law regarding the consumer side has well, a lot to say. And well, Gabriel, you wrote the post, so I'm gonna throw the ball to you, and I would like to hear what you have to say based on what you wrote today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm just taking a look on the post because just to revive my memory. But yes, yeah. This morning I was reading this complaint. A lady, she was complaining about a doctor, and then the post become very viral and even noisy because people, nowadays people they tend to polarize a lot, and people they start judging, people they start saying this and that. Well, I'm trying to be a bit more down to earth, and well, and then I realized, okay, so well, let me share with them that they have the right to complain on the complaint book, livre de reclamações, and then of course, okay, I decided to. It was the ignition for a post. And then I thought, okay, this is a good topic for a post because many people, when they travel, they don't think about this, but we have rights when we travel. And people, they have rights here in Portugal to when they travel here. And this complaint book is not something, it's not a luxury thing, it's mandatory by the law. And for instance, in my website, which is not even a fancy website for many reasons, but all licenses, information, insurances, and all these legal stuff, it's there. And people, they know when they book me, they can check if I'm legal and if I'm abiding the law, and I am. And I have also this information in all my other platforms like a TripAdvisor or Viator okay. I When I send my emails, we need to put there our HNAFT, our HNAT. We don't have to drop this information there, but it's good for people to know that we have these laws here, and they are mandatory in the tourism industry too, and pretty much everywhere. And even though many of us we don't have physical establishments, we don't have shops, we are obligated to have these complaint books, so people they can fill up a complaint about something that they think, well, it's not fair, or something about what we provided, or so, and they complain. They can complain online too, and then we have to answer. So the authorities they will come after us. Actually, 2 3 years ago, I don't know the reason, but the authorities they came after me and they told me, well, you need to fix your website because your number, you have to have the information that the price of the call is the Portuguese standard call or something like that. And then I thought, wow, it's something very simple, but we have laws, and this is good because it's also a way that travelers we have to check if the person or the company we are working with, they are abiding the law, they are following the rules, and if we can feel protected, because I mean, you can hire
Gabriel just
similar,
froze.
but they have,
Okay.
sorry,
Oops.
if they
Yeah,
don't have any.
we
Okay.
It
had
got
some little interruption in here, but go on, go on.
Okay, so if people they book a B&B or a tour operator like us or so, and if they don't see all this information displayed on a website or even in our van, there's the information there: no smokers, complaint book.
Well, the internet connection of Gabriel seems to be falling. Well, I think it's from Gabriel's side that we are having a few
Yep.
issues. Because both of us, we are well connected in here.
Let's just give him a quick second to see if he comes
Yeah.
back.
Well, we've been having a great time here with these live sessions. But, well, it seems like technology is still being tricky. I think
Yeah,
we have
he's
Gabriel
back.
back.
Okay, I'm back. No, I think it's something with Mel. Sorry, guys, because I notice a bit everywhere around here. Now you are listening.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna be too long too, but I was just saying that it's also a way for people to check if we are legal, if they can feel comfortable, because if something goes wrong, they have ways to complain, to get refunds. So, and the complaint book is one of these things that are mandatory. So, anytime, every time you book a B&B or a tour guide or whatever in Portugal, or if you go to public services and if you think that people were not polite or they show some kind of prejudice or something, you can complain, whether on a physical book in the shop or through the website that I also shared here in my post. So I think this is a very good thing, so people can know, because this is a country and this is a developed country, so it's not like traveling to, I don't know, some places where the laws they are not so accurate or something. Here, we really need to abide the law, and we like to let people know, especially our guests, our followers here on Portugal Unplugged, that they can feel comfortable and safe with us. So, well, I think this is my 2 cents for now. Well, guys, what about you? Sergio, Northern Portugal, I know it's the pretty much the same because the laws they are the same all around the country, right?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I actually don't have much to say in this regard because As well as honest and down to earth tour guides over here, the run ins that we have with the law are few and scarce, and we try to make the best for our guests and for our customers. And I would say that most of this stems from just being honest and providing clear and transparent communication. That's all there is to it. Rights and I would say that for 95% of the things that we do in terms of rights, duties, etc., it all boils down to common sense when traveling abroad and just thinking about would I do this at home or not? And if I'm not doing this in my country, why am I going to be doing this in another country? Well, unless you go there for that one specific reason where you can do something in another country that you can't do in your own country, then, well, you just need to use common sense and think about if it's legal or not. But I'm going to give you a very clear example about, well, transparency and things that are different in other countries. And you probably guys, you deal with this on a daily basis as well, like I do, particularly when hosting tours. It happens to me frequently that I host families with young adults, usually between just over 18 but below 21. And for people who we host coming from the US, well, the legal drinking age in the US is 21, but over here in Portugal, it's 18. So it's one of those things. And I would say this is the exception to the rule, and it's probably the most obvious one. So you're not breaking any law by coming over here. And, well, you don't have, well, it's not a reason to complain when we say that well, our customs and our laws, they are a little bit different in this regard regarding the drinking age. But I would say that for 90+% of the laws, they overlap. And so the laws, that means the rights and the duties, both as tour operators as well as the travelers or the incoming guests that we have. So yeah, people, I would say they are very well protected over here. And well, I feel like I'm going to steer a little bit more towards the conversation towards the exceptions rather than the rules. You were talking about a few things earlier, Gabriel, and one of the things that came to mind was actually a situation that happened a couple of weeks ago with a tour operator over here in the north. That actually Lionel flagged it for me, and I actually know the company that runs those tours. And one of the things was, well, there were it was a minivan, yeah, 8 persons in there, and only the driver plus the front passenger were wearing seatbelts, and the other 6 in the rear, they were not wearing seatbelts because, well, they thought that they didn't need the seatbelts. When over here in Portugal, legislation requires that everyone inside of a moving vehicle currently needs to wear a seatbelt. So that's one of the things. So they got pulled over by the police, and everyone who was in the back was got a ticket. I think it was 120 or near. I
Yeah.
don't know exactly the specifics, but a minimum of 120 euros of a fine per person for not wearing the seatbelt. And then we just realized this because we saw a review of someone, one of the affected passengers or travelers, who was complaining that they were not briefed beforehand about the mandatory use of the seatbelt in a vehicle. I can see why people feel like they need to have an explanation about that, things pertaining to the tour, okay. But on the other hand, I would also argue, and I would put myself in the position of the tour operator, it's not mandatory for us to disclose every single legal aspect that we have over here in Portugal, because otherwise we would have to do a briefing or a sort of a course or a degree about Portuguese law. And so if we want to
Mm-hmm.
be exhaustive, we would probably need to cover 3 days. Okay, so if you want to take this tour, I have to brief you on Portuguese law and Código Civil, Código Processo Civil. That takes quite a bit of time to go through the entire legislation. So to do an 8-hour tour, you're not going through a 1 week degree about Portuguese law and whatnot. So as I would argue that as a traveler, you also need to be aware of the specifics of the law to the country in which you're traveling. Another great example is, well, if you're traveling to a certain country or back from a certain country, sometimes those countries they require you to have an up-to-date vaccination card or to take certain
Hmm.
vaccines. For example, it's one of those things. It's a legal requirement to travel to such a country, particularly when we're talking about tropical countries with more exotic diseases and whatnot. You want to be protected, and so you're going to abide by those laws and those regulations. It's a no-brainer, I would say. So yeah, this the pendulum swings both ways, both for tour operators as well as for travelers. We need to be aware. We need to make sure that we comply with the law, that we are transparent, but at the same time, the traveler also needs to have just basic knowledge about the law of the country to which they are traveling to. And that doesn't mean that we don't have. I would actually even argue that over here in Portugal, we even have extensive consumer and traveler laws protecting the traveler. More so than in other countries. There are certain laws
Hmm.
that are EU wide, like for example, delayed flights or canceled flights. You have the right to a rebook or to a free hotel, or at the very least a partial refund or something like that if your flight gets delayed for more than 3 hours, I believe. And many other aspects. Some of them are specific to the country. So when traveling to Europe and to Portugal, I would say that travelers are very well protected. But then there's also a caveat. Um, you need to make sure that you book with a properly registered tour operator. So that is the thing, because
Hmm.
the country, we might have all of the laws and whatnot, but again, this goes both ways. The law serves as a groundwork for to protect both the businesses and as well as the travelers. More the travelers than the businesses, but that's just the way that I see it. And I'm always happy to explain everything in a little bit more detail to anyone who requests those informations. For example, one of the things that people ask me frequently is cancellation policies. And I direct them to the website where they can see my entire cancellation policy. And it does. This is not something that is standardized. Sometimes it's exclusive to the business. Some businesses they accept cancellations down to 24 hours before the tour. Some other companies they only accept up to 1 week prior to the tour. Things like that. For example, I have a tour, a very specific tour that I accept cancellations on the day of the tour, but that's because the tour is very weather dependent, and I know that if we have just a minimum chance of a little bit of clouds, well, that is going to
Spoil.
not allow me to deliver that tour. It's going to spoil it. So I don't want people to be at the mercy of the weather, and so for that reason, I'm very generous with my cancellation policy. And in fact, it happened to me just last month where we figured that the safest option was precisely to cancel the tour because the weather was not going to be favorable for the activity that we would be doing. So yeah, there's plenty of things to do. Now, if one of the sides, particularly on the tour operator side, they are not fulfilling their commitments in terms of legal obligations and whatnot, that leaves the customer unprotected. And so that's why we always advocate that good tour guides, good companies, they are transparent in all of their communication. They provide you with insurance numbers, they provide registration numbers, cancellation policies, all of that stuff. Shady guys, well, not so much. They are just like on the basis, oh, trust me, I'm legal, just trust me. Yeah, but you're not delivering any proof that you're legal. And 99% of the times, or 90% of the times, things go well. But the person who gets stuck with an accident or something like that, then they're going to wish that they have done their homework. And we always think that this is something that only happens to others until it happens to us. And we've had instances in our lives. Most of the time, it's only minor things, but we've all had instances in our lives when we think that, oh, we always thought that this is something that only happens to us, when and then well, it only happens to others, and then it happens to us. One of the most common things is, and I've heard horror stories about this, is lost luggage from the airplanes. Can be something as simple as this. Uh, but there's plenty more examples. So again, this is one of the rights of the customers. They are very well protected by the law over here in Portugal. They have the right to complain, but they also need to be diligent in who they're hiring, because if you're complaining against a guy who is not uninsured, well, they're going to say, well, you have no right to complain because you booked an unofficial tour, or a guy you booked with someone who is not registered. So your complaint is void. We can't act on it because this guy or this company is not registered to offer tours, to offer accommodations, to offer experiences, etc. So yeah, there's both rights. There's also duties. Be very aware of your duties
Sergio.
as well, because they are sometimes more important than your rights.
And what if people says something like, "Oh, but I didn't know that." What does the our law says about that?
What
Not
our law says
knowing the
about it,
law
not
is
knowing
not
is not an excuse to abide with the law, by the law.
e-
Hmm.
exactly so. There's no excuse. If we got caught in something, we are in
No,
trouble. Because
it's
I
almost
didn't
like,
know that.
when the most common time I hear that excuse, speeding on the highway.
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that the speed limit on this stretch of road was 100 instead of 120, and the guy gets caught doing 150 kilometers an hour.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
I didn't know, I didn't know, I did not know, I did not notice. Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
still gonna get a ticket. So
Oh yeah.
again, it's the prime example of not knowing what the law is,
Yeah. And
because
then
you're
they
not
and
exempted
then
from the
and then the
consequences.
officers they give us a reminder.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Hey, here's your
That
ticket.
costs some money.
So, what about you, Lionel?
Well, you've touched some very interesting points, and I'm gonna touch into some of the duties, in
But
fact, that we've been mentioning,
guys,
and it just
sometimes I'm losing you a bit because I'm having some trouble here with the internet.
Okay.
okay, but we still hear you. Um, in fact, I'm gonna touch into some duties that just kind of open the door for this subject. You know that thousands and thousands of people rent cars to travel through Portugal. There is nothing wrong about that. But a lot of people don't even bother to learn basic signage. We've missed Gabriel.
He's still on
You
audio.
still there?
No, I'm here.
No?
I'm just checking here the
O-
internet. Okay, I'm
Okay,
I'm
okay,
listening.
okay. So people don't even bother to learn signage. And I read online sometimes, oh, yeah, we didn't like so much driving because we could not understand the signs. So, guess what? You rent a car, and people are quite concerned about the rental car reviews. Are they going to get scammed because of a scratch and this and that? Okay. So, what can affect their pocket? They are quite careful with, but they are not even careful, or they don't even bother about learning the rules and the signage. And one of the most common things where, or places where things can go really wrong in Portugal, we have thousands around roundabouts, and people don't know how to drive around the roundabout. In fact, the rules in the country right next to us seem to be a little bit different than for us on the roundabouts. From what I noticed while driving there, they do the roundabouts in a slightly different way than we do. So, learning the signage, learning the traffic rules, if you are going somewhere else, if you're going abroad, and you're going to rent a car, you need to learn a little bit of the rules, a little bit of the signage. Don't just assume that it's exactly the same like home. Otherwise, we would have um, our fellow friends from across the world driving on the wrong side of the road. Okay, so if you come to Portugal, you need to learn the basic rules and the basic signage about driving in here, and that's why in most cases uh, we don't recommend renting a car. We don't recommend for several people to rent a car and to drive around in many situations because um, it's not easy in certain places. It's not easy, and it's much worse if people don't know the rules or don't know the signage. So some people even think that we're just trying to sell our business, but in fact, we see that every day people having issues because they are not used to our rules. They don't know the rules, they don't know the signage, and then they get in trouble. And then they go back, and instead of kind of blaming the fact that they did not learn the rules or the basics about being in here, they prefer to complain about how people drive over here and how people park and this and that. So this is just one thing. If you go abroad, learn a little bit about the place you're going. If you're going to rent a car, learn the rules. A lot of people want to come to Portugal and learn a few basic words. And a few basic words, it's more than fine. They open a lot of doors. So they are concerned about that. But about how is it to drive over there? And a car, if not driven well, can be quite dangerous. That is just the basic of the basics. Okay, so that is one of the duties that, in fact, the travelers should take more carefully, or consider it more seriously, because they are coming to drive into another country. Then, as you mentioned, not knowing the law, it's not an excuse. But some people assume that the laws are equal or they are the same everywhere. They are not. So there's a lot of stuff that might be not well considered, not allowed, forbidden, this and that. And things are getting a little bit better. But I remember, by example, about the smoking rules and no smoking rules. A few years ago, we had pretty much each country with its own set of rules, and a lot of people were kind of caught in trouble by smoking a cigarette in a place that technically was forbidden for us, but it was still allowed in the countries where they lived. So these are other of the things that people really need to assess and need to consider. And then it's all about to understand how things are organized in here, and how the things are organized in here. It also helps mainly when people are spending more time in here or in the process of moving to Portugal. People really need to understand that countries have different administration structures, and that very often the place that you could attend somewhere to solve this or that issue in Portugal will be to a different department, will be to a different office. So these are some of the things that people still need to be acquainted with if they are planning to move to here. But of course, as you've been mentioning, the rules protect a lot the consumer. The rules protect the travelers. But as you know, Portugal, it's a beautiful country where a lot of stuff sometimes just goes through on the gray zone or so, or it's not taken in consideration. And then people go back home, they go abroad, and they say, "No, no, I was there and I did it that way. I drove to this or to that place. I parked here and there. I took the car to this or that place." For example, there's a bunch of guys doing off-road videos with well-equipped vehicles, and I would love to have one of those in protected landscape area. The fact that no one is catching them, or the authorities are not catching them, doesn't take the responsibility of them for being damaging protected area, because we have some very strict rules about driving on the cliffs on the coast, and there's um, a distance from the coast that needs to be respected, where no vehicle is allowed except the authorities or emergency rescue. And they still keep posting videos online and doing that because no one told them that they could not. They come from countries where they can. They are used to travel the world into countries where they can do pretty much everything. So they are using Portugal as a base for these social media videos, doing so. If one of these days, one of the officers responsible for our nature and forest police forces um, catches them, they are in high risk of losing their vehicles, because the vehicles will be immediately impounded per the Portuguese rules. And there's no excuse about or we did not know. Okay, and this happens a lot during summertime, with, by example, campers, camper fans, people that they go to camp on the cliffs, they go to camp near the beach. The rules are very, very clear. Okay. But people think, oh, these guys, the authorities, they are being mean. Well, the rules exist. So if they do exist, agree with them or not, they should be followed. Okay, because take it or not, they are the rule. So these duties about knowing the legislation of if you want to do something very specific, this is really important, and it's really something that people should take in consideration and not disregard, like I've been seeing. I'm going to give you another example. Drone usage. Okay, there's a lot of regulation about drone usage, and I'm sure that every day or every week you see someone that you kind of look at it and you feel, probably not. Okay, they are probably not following the rules. Um, Nothing wrong about the drone usage, but there are rules about it. There's legislation about it. There's laws about it. So the duty is really to research, to read, and to comply with, because we don't have enough police forces, unfortunately, and that is something that is widely discussed. We don't have enough people to be omnipresent everywhere to solve every situation. Um, but there's a lot of things that could be avoided if people would follow the rules, and then those entities, they would be taking care of the real urgent and important matters, instead of just being obliged to file up tickets or fines for people that are just not following. And this is a reality that we see. Okay, so if we had enough personnel to check everything, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these things would not happen, because we would have a bigger presence of the law enforcement personnel. But the fact that for some reason things went through doesn't make them allowed, doesn't make them legal in many situations. And I see a lot of people going back home and even sometimes arguing with the locals when we say, sorry, you cannot do that. They go back home and they start writing online, oh, we did it this way, we did it that way. So it's perfectly fine to do it because we made it. Unfortunately, this is something that we see day after day after day. And not just to talk about the protection barriers and people going beyond those protection barriers and putting themselves in danger, but that's another story. I would say that one of the major duties is to have common sense, but not everybody seems to have been granted with. But yeah, well, these are just my 2 cents about today's topic. I could go much deeper on this, and as you know, sometimes I also pinch where it hurts. Um, just we see a lot of things happening, but we cannot say that it's because of lack of information, because the information does exist. Were people lazy to check on that information? That's another story. But the information nowadays, the access to information, it's much easier. Just to finish, be careful while checking for any legal aspect through AI engines, whichever. Okay, GPT,
Mhm.
Gemini, whatever. Okay, Perplexity, you name it, because um, they commit mistakes. And even into some legal subjects, I've been sometimes fighting in here with some legal subjects, which I know where the law is, and they go around and around and around and around, and the output, it's very often not what is the law. And that is a big issue. People relying on AI on legal aspects, or questioning or asking questions to AI agents about what it's allowed or not. Well, in many cases, the information might not be so accurate to be used as rule. So, my 2 cents on this. Well, final thoughts. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, from my end, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, just to finish, I really had some.
Yeah, please,
Go,
Gabriel.
go
You're
Yeah,
back. You're back.
I had some issues here with internet, so
ahead.
Yeah.
no, yeah. At some point, it was hard to deal with this. I thought I was out, but I was in. Now, just to finish, I think it was a very good chat because we embrace here not just the law, but also a bit the common sense. Because when we talk about rights and duties, well, this is two ways highway, right? So goes both ways, and many times, well, sometimes we just need to also because we have people inside our vans and sometimes people they just decided to open a coca-cola or even a beer which is not allowed or some chips or something and then sometimes we have to say you shouldn't be doing this, right? And I mean we don't have to have a law. Sometimes it's really the common sense. But hey,
Mhm.
we are all adults, and well, we decided to create this group also to help people. And in our daily basis, sometimes some people they have to tell us when we are doing something wrong, and sometimes we have to tell people when they are doing something which is not maybe the best, and that's it. So it's not judgmental or something, but I think it's good to bring these topics to the table. This is already part of our course. Sometimes we bring these
Mm.
topics and then maybe next week we're gonna talk about some beautiful cherry picking stuff and we're gonna do something different.
Ooh,
So from
next
my
week we're
end,
going to be
guys,
talking
it
about the
was a
eclipse
pleasure
for
again.
sure.
Well, final thoughts, Sergio.
No, next week we're going to be talking about the eclipse, that's for sure. Have an
Yeah.
adventure
Well,
planned for Wednesday, so let's see how things pan out.
Well,
next
I can't
week.
hear you again.
Yeah, next week I will have a very long day on Monday. So, yes. Well, we will be live, of course. But well, it will be one of those
Oh,
tours.
Jesus, I lost you
So,
for a bit. Jesus, today
no, no.
we are in trouble.
Just saying, next week will be one of those tours. So long day on the road,
Yeah.
but we'll be
Ah,
back.
yes, for
And
sure. Yeah.
well, thank you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for keeping up with this interesting subject, and thank you for the post today, Gabriel, because it really triggered this very interesting subject. I know that this is not always that embellishing and sugarcoating that people like to hear, but we need to address these things. We need to address the elephant in the room once in a while because these topics matter, and pretty much I don't see anyone just talking about them around. So this is really useful and real information that everybody needs to consider. So I'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Yep, see you all next week.
Well, thank you for watching. See you next week, next Monday. Have a good evening.
Bye. Had a good evening.
Bye.